Hello, everyone, and welcome to Good Journeys Tarot. I'm Rosemary, and this week I am on vacation, so I am going to record a VR for you, which I've not done in a little while. This VR is to Max Black's tag, Tarot Nerd, and I first saw this on Kelly Bear's channel. Both of those videos will be linked below in the comments, um, as well as possibly up here at some point. And I really enjoyed Kelly Bears, and I thought, yeah, I could chat about some of this stuff because I haven't talked about it in a little while, and I have new decks and that type of thing. Um, so basically, these are all like questions about what we like in decks, why we pick the decks we pick, that type of thing, as well as, how big a nerd we really are, as a collector, as a reader, whatever the case may be. Um, and I am going to refer to my questions because I want to keep them the same as hers. Which tarot deck for you offers endless interest or study opportunities and why? Of course, there are the three big ones that I study continually to learn more about the Marseille, the Thoth, and the Smith Waite, which I'm constantly learning new things about even after 15 years. But I spend most of my time diving into the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, which is really a blend of all three of those histories and connects it with many cultures and religious practices around the world. This is the original black and white edition, and I love this deck. I actually am getting a shadow from my hand, right? I do love it. The most recent edition is updated in color, and while beautiful, and I work with constantly, this is like my I want to say soul deck. This is the deck, this black and white version that I really connected with the tarot and started deep diving into the tarot with. And so I constantly want to pull it out and work with it. If I really want my highest self to speak to me, it's a big part of any kind of magical practice that I do. Though the Revelation edition, which is in color, also works in a very similar way. There are some things that changed in it, which are um, lovely to work with on an everyday basis. So that's the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. And this deck actually works for my next question as well. That next question is which tarot decks hit or miss cardstock spot? That sweet cardstock spot, and why? Ben About One's decks have always hit that spot. This deck had just minor problems with the fact that it was a black back. That's something that many deck creators learn. You just don't want a solid black back because it tends to show wear very easily. However, just the smoothness of this, it is not actual. It is a mat that is not rose petally, so it's smooth. And the cards slide like they should. I want my cards to just kind of slide apart, but not be so slick that they go swoosh. Um, and these hit that sweet spot. Uh, and even cards like this that are gilded in a matte finish, I think are ideal because the matte finish doesn't wear as badly as the foil. And I actually only have one deck that does that. Well, two. One of them we'll talk about in a minute. The other one is the Pocket of Peers, which is right there. And that cardstock actually is a little bit of rose petal to it. Like it's just a little bit of the cards stick a little bit. And so I don't like to work with it that much, but I do love that kind of edging. But some of my other favorite types of cardstock are the cardstock that is in this deck as well as in the Lost Hollow Tarot. This is the Rider Waite, and this is that, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but this is a linen finish on these cards. And I almost prefer this to cardstock that is gilded. to just have this kind of linen. I mean, it shuffles beautifully. I love the feel of the cards in my hands. And so yeah, so this is definitely one of those card stocks that I love is that linen finish. Another one that I really love is plastic cardstock. Specifically, this cardstock, which is the deck of the Bastard, is wonderful. It shuffles beautifully. The cards slide apart like I like them to. Oh, look at that, just beautiful. And then they bounce back to their normal form. And yeah, I just love this cardstock, this plastic cardstock, or at least in the heavily coated, possibly paper. But this is waterproof, so I assume that it is plastic. Um, this deck was one of my first decks after the Smith Waite, the Golden Thread Tarot, which is gorgeous. It was gilding printed on black plastic, and I love the way this shuffles. I love everything about this card deck. Although I isn't that wonderful? Um, it has started to wear where I've shuffled it so much because I actually used this nonstop for almost 2 years, and so you'll actually be able to see there some of the like flaking on it. This deck I think is still available from Tina Gong, who is Labyrinthos online. Now, this is a cardstock that I love, though I'm not happy with the deck after I got it. There's just a little bit of a pippish thing going on with some of them. But this is the Spacious Tarot. This cardstock actually is surprisingly, even though it just feels like paper to me, but it's smooth, it slides, it's not too glossy, it's not too matte, it shuffles well. I do like it a lot. And yeah, so cardstock that drives me nuts. That's the second part of this question. Would be the one everybody knows about, the Star Secret Tarot, which I thought was lovely, and I was looking forward to working with it. And it is just horrible how it sticks because of this rose petal finish, and you can't actually do anything about it. I've tried. I don't like the way it sticks. Otherwise, beautiful, beautiful cards. And there are some other decks like my Pocket of Peers and my Curious Travels, which have a similar kind of feel to them. That's very matte, almost rose petal finish, that causes them to stick. And I am not very thrilled with that. Very much looking forward to the Curious Travels coming out mass market. Hoping that it will be a much easier to use cardstock because that is a deck that I love. Um, the Nemesis Tarot is a deck that has a weird cardstock. So it actually shuffles really well. Um, and but it's actually like got a plastic film on it on both sides. When I first got the deck, it actually that film had separated. It reminded me of when you would get notebooks in school with like pretty pictures on them. A lot of times where they were holographic or whatnot, and the plastic would peel off after a while, is what this deck did. And I haven't had any more problems since that card was replaced. Um, but now that every time I shuffle these cards or I hold these cards, I can feel that plastic texture. They are lovely cards. They do shuffle well, but I would prefer to have a cardstock that is more like, say, the Spirit Keepers or one of those others. Yeah. So a little bit of an odd texture for me there, but this one. All right. The next question that she asked, question number 3, was, does size matter? Or do you have any favorite shapes, sizes of decks? I will tell you that size only matters to me in that cards can be too big and too small. So yeah, size matters. I prefer cards that are traditional tarot size. I don't mind cards that are a little a little smaller, like say the Spacious Tarot, that's more of a bridge size, um, or the size of a playing card, that actually works for me pretty good. And on some decks, the odd thing is that the size doesn't bother me. So like this is a sample of a smaller deck. This is the Claves Astrologique from also Tina Gong's Labyrinthos. And but these are I think they for some reason they don't bother me, and I think it's the card stock. I think it's also the fact that they are simple. So like I can actually make out these images and I can see what they are. Um, and so I do not mind the size of a card. And it's very good card stock. It has the little gilding on the sides. And so this doesn't bother me. But do you know, I cannot read with a single one of these US Games decks. They are too small. And it's because the level of detail in the artwork, it just for some reason they're awkward for me. And to actually try to read with them, they're beautiful and I want to love this deck. I just wish it was tarot sized, but this is only available in this small edition. And so I have a hard time with my eyes with cards this small. I really hoped to be able to take some of these tarot and tens with me places. But I think it's come down to the card stock. The cards that I got yesterday and showed on Instagram, the mini version of the Rosetta Tarot, actually doesn't bother me, but the card stock is different. It's actually not the US Games paper, right? And I don't know if the cardstock makes a difference as much as the imagery. Like these images are so small and so detailed that they can be hard for me to really make out and to read with personally because of I guess because I'm old and I'm blind. I keep saying that, but the truth is I'm 2020 practically with my glasses. But still, the size of the cards just really bug me. Um, the same, I think, is true of larger cards. Like, okay, I love this deck, and it's a little bit larger, but I can work with it very easily, no problems. This is the Tarot of the Holy Light. It's a paper card stock. It's like most tarot decks. It's fine. But I've been saying that I can't work with a Modern Love because it is so big. Well, guess what? The Modern Love and the Tarot of the Holy Light are the exact same size. The difference is these are embossed on the back, which I think requires it to be a thicker cardstock, and they're gilded. And I think that gilding also adds to my difficulty with it because I can shuffle this deck all day, but this deck it's difficult for me to shuffle. And I'm only using part of the deck here, but it's still quite difficult for me to shuffle. And so that's my biggest problem with larger cards is the shuffling, but also the amount of space they take up when you're reading. Um, the Hearts and Hands is a deck that I love. It's bigger than both of these, but I don't read with it very often because of its size. I mean, it has borders on it that could be cut off, but then you'd have to cut off some of the art, and I don't want to do that. I was hoping when they published it via US Games last year that it would be resized, but it was not. It's this exact same size. Unfortunately, it's just too big. Now, interesting thing, the next two decks are actually longer than these that I don't like, but I find them, I have no problem shuffling them. So, for example, the Arcana Iris Sacra, which is the Thoth-based deck, also by Tina Gong, from Labyrinthos. And I think the thing is that they're narrower. So even though they're long, like some of the other decks, or they seem longer, at least in the box, they're thinner. And I like this. This works really well for me. And now that I'm saying they're long, they are pretty much the length of tarot cards. So, but it's interesting that these that I don't know. I guess because they're narrower, I thought they were longer than they are. But I do love this, and I think that's why the Urban Tarot works for me so well, is because it also is, while it's long, it is narrower. So it's actually about a half inch smaller than this deck, but it is the same, almost the same length. And so that difference in width actually works out great for me. It is longer than the Modern Love. Well, actually, yeah, it's just longer than the Modern Love, but it's narrower, and so I find it easy to work with this deck for some reason. I don't know why the width would make a difference, or if it's just the cardstock. So yeah, size does matter depending on the cardstock, I think. So both of those things, I think, kind of relate to one another in a weird way, to making what I really like in a deck. Our next question is there a favorite tarot artist, author, creator, publisher that you enjoy the most or collect, and why? I would say that the only one that I really follow in, with any interest and is probably Benabel Wynn. I've got all of her decks, and at this point, I've almost got all of her courses because her content is just so good. It's so full of information. She researches things so thoroughly, and she puts a lot of effort into all of it. So um, I will continue to follow her and purchase her decks. Um, I'm so tempted by the one she's working on right now, which is based on the Italia decks. Even though that's not a system I know anything about and that I'm not sure if I want to start learning. um, just because I know she puts a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of research into these things, and it's great to be able to learn from someone like that. Um, I forgot to talk about shapes. Can I go back and talk about shapes real quick? I always wanted a round deck. This one came closest to having artwork that I actually liked. It's the Circle of Life, and but it actually has its own kind of theme, so I would kind of have to study it a little bit. um, and the other thing is that I find the cards are too big when I lay them out into a spread, because they are as wide, at almost as wide as a tarot card size deck, but then they're round, and so they're bigger. But if they could make them a little smaller, like say this two penny oracle, these are fabulous. This size is perfect, and well, you gotta love Madame Clara's cardstock to begin with, but I actually got these round two penny oracle to work with my 5 cent tarot, and I do love this size. It works great. It doesn't take up any more space than tarot cards do on the table, and so um, I do enjoy it, despite the fact that it's round. So I do like odd and interesting shapes, but I want them to be practical. I don't want them to take up the whole table when I put them down. Okay, and the next one says, do you have any favorite themes or art styles? Obviously, no, because I have some that are painted, I have some that are um, hand drawn, some are the computer generated. I have watercolors and pencil sketches and digital artwork and all kinds of things like that. I'm more about the imagery that and whether or not it conveys the ideas of that specific tarot card, um, more so than the artwork or theme. Now, I tend to try not to buy decks that are themed. I do have some, but I don't. The only pop culture deck that I have is the Golden Girls Hero, because I love the Golden Girls, and that deck was really well done. It's not pips, which is unusual for pop culture decks. Um, And but I will buy thematic decks occasionally. I have the Crow Tarot. I have the Crystal Unicorn Tarot, which is unicorns. Tarot Bot was a Kickstarter. I love the ideas of robots as people. Always have. That's why Futurama is one of my favorite shows. And this deck had such vibrant colors and clean lines that I had to have it. And so it is in my collection, although I rarely read with it. It has a weird kind of feeling in your hand because of the um, gilded back and this very high gloss finish. But I do love the cards and I keep them on hand, although I know some people have a problem with this artist recently and have abandoned their decks. I still have it on my shelf. Um, And then I sometimes will find something that I love that's kind of generic, like this um, vintage cartoon tarot, the mystical medleys. This stays so true to the Smithwave imagery while just adding the fun that you get from animation. And so I couldn't pass it up. Obviously, decks around animation are something that I'm interested in, right? Since I just showed you the tarot bot. Um, and I do love it. It's fun, but it still has all the symbols and the imagery that we need or desire in our decks. And so I am enjoying working with it. I love how this deck was designed, and it really works for me. I know not everyone likes the way Illumino 11 has them packaged, but I love it. Magnetic. It's great. The last question is, in what ways are you a tarot nerd or geek with tarot cards? And it gives some examples there. But so I can't show you my laptop because I'm recording on it, but there are tarot stickers all over it. There is Bone Stone and Earthflesh sticker. There is a This Might Hurt sticker. There is a Elastic sticker. There is a sticker from the Lost Hollow Tarot, as well as some more generic tarot stickers that I have on it. So, loving my stickers on my laptop. And then, of course, I have my pomegranate scarf that I bought specifically for hanging in this room and wearing on occasion when I read and do videos. Obviously, a nod to the High Priestess and the Empress in some decks. And also my witch's hat, I had tarot themed. There's a Tudor rose on the side of it there. You also see, I think, the lemniscate on this side and some other things too that are relevant to me. Oops. I just colored my hair and washed it, and so it is like poofy all over the place. So that is my VR to Max Black about being a tarot nerd. Oh, I also have some prints of some of the cards that I showed you. Like this deck, I actually have 4 prints from it that are hanging on my wall downstairs, and I've showed those in another video. I actually have a whole journal that I themed after this image from the um, Numinous Tarot. I expanded it into a mandala, and I've shown that a couple of times to you guys. So yeah, a little bit of a tarot nerd or geek, although I'm slowing down my purchases of decks of late. Actually, because the last 2 decks that I've ordered have taken forever to get here and still are not here. Oh well. I guess that's one of the things about being interested in tarot or being a geek or a nerd. You just can't wait you have so much anticipation about the things that are coming your way, right? When you're really into them. So, guys, I hope that you are having a lovely weekend. And until I see you again, good journeys.